This is JC Setting the Record Straight podcast. I'm your host, JC. On this channel, we set the record straight. That means we fact check and correct commonly believed misinformation and propaganda. This podcast is based on a movie I just watched called The Last Duel. I'm going to give a spoiler alert because I'm about to discuss details that happened in the movie, and this apparently was based on a true story. But if you watch the trailer, you're pretty much going to know everything you need to know. In this movie, Matt Damon's character was born with no title. He also had no money. He decided to fight for the king, and then he was given the title of a knight. Now, his friend had the title of a squire, which apparently a squire is lower than a knight. This movie was supposed to take place in France, right? And so the squire dude is the only one who actually looked French. The rest of them look like they're from the UK, and the wife apparently was German. Matt Damon's character had just returned home from a war, and then he had to leave again because he had to collect on a debt that was owed to him. So Matt Damon's mother was living with them, and she had to run an errand, so she took all of the servants with her. So his wife was left alone. Then this squire guy came to the house and tricked her into letting him in. Once he came in, he ended up raping her. Now, the movie gives three different versions of the story. It gives the squire's version of the story, it gives Matt Damon's character of the story, version of the story, and the wife's version of the story. So you're going to see the rape scene happen three different times. So I'm going to play the trailer, and then I'm going to come back with my commentary.
There is only one question that matters. Do you swear on your life that what you say is true?
My father told me my life would be blessed with good fortune. I'm married. I was a good wife. And then was judged and shamed by my country.
I say before all of you, I spoke the truth.
A most unspeakable charge has been brought against you.
Jacques Legris entered our home. He attacked me.
The accusation is false.
I am telling the truth.
The truth does not matter. There is only the power of men.
This should be settled quietly.
I'm innocent!
I request a duel to the death.
If you lose, your wife will suffer dire consequences.
One of us has lied. Let us let God decide.
You do not believe me.
I am risking my life for you.
You are risking my life so you can save your pride.
The penalty for bearing false witness is that you are to be burned alive.
I will not be silent.
So after the wife gets raped, she wants to bring criminal charges against the squire who raped her. However, because she was a woman, she lacked legal standing to bring forth a criminal prosecution. Because women were considered property, their husbands had to sue on their behalfs. Under the doctrine of coverture, a woman's legal existence merged with her husband's. wives had no independent legal existence. It was considered a marital unity. Because under the law, raping a woman was not an injury to the woman herself, it was an injury to her husband. Back then, there were no bar associations, there were no law licenses, there were no district attorneys, no attorney generals, none of that shit. Under common law, private citizens prosecuted their own criminal cases. Back then, the law was in plain English, or in this case, it was in plain French, so that any man of ordinary intelligence could understand it. Now, the legal system has all these Latin terms, all these complicated doctrines, all these legalese to disenfranchise citizens from seeking justice on their own behalves. Now, you have to rely on the discretion of a prosecutor, of a district attorney, or attorney general. These are political actors. They're not disinterested. In addition to being elected government officials, as attorneys, they are also officers of the court. Their primary duty is to the court or to the state, not to their clients. So you're paying them $500 an hour and they don't even represent you, they represent the state. The whole thing is a scam, and it has a disparate impact on people of color and the poor the most. But I digress. I'm going to get back to the movie. So Matt Damon's character wants to bring criminal charges against this squire. So the person who would preside over this prosecution would be Ben Affleck's character, which is Count Pierre. Incidentally, Count Pierre is actually friends with the squire. So Matt Damon already knew that he wasn't going to get justice from this count. So he decided to appeal to the king. And he didn't really trust the king either, so he requested a duel. According to their legal system, whoever wins the duel would have been telling the truth, because God would not let an honorable man lose. So just to go back a little bit, Matt Damon's character was trying to get his wife pregnant, and they were married for 5 years. She never became pregnant, and then after she was raped, she was pregnant 6 months later, or during this trial, they kind of skipped ahead. 6 months later, she was pregnant. So they used this backward logic against her. They said that a woman could not become pregnant unless she experienced pleasure. According to this logic, a rapist could not get a woman pregnant unless she actually enjoyed it, which means that it wasn't rape. So she was charged also. They said that if she was lying, that she was going to be burned alive. So her fate was also dependent on this duel. So Matt Damon's character goes to his wife and says that he's putting his life on the line for her. And then she replied, which you may have seen in a clip, that he was putting her life on the line in order to protect his own ego. So the question becomes, was he really fighting to protect his wife, or was he fighting to protect his own ego? Because if she's his property, then he's going to fight to protect his own honor. It really had nothing to do with her. Men protect what is theirs. There is nothing noble about it. Now, back in the day, both women and children were considered property, but I have argued that we need to return to the days when children were considered property, because parents would be less likely to abuse their children, and also because CPS wouldn't be able to take children from their parents without compensating said parents. But because children aren't considered property, the government can come and take your children, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it. They don't have to compensate you for it. You have no rights other than your rights to procedural due process. And we all know that the system is rigged, because we have judges who have been caught selling children to be molested. But to get back to women, I'm wondering if men would give better or greater protection to women if women were their property. Now, it may seem misogynist to even suggest this as as an idea, but the law is about technicalities, right? So it's not even about what's right or wrong. It's about what technicality can you use to get your way. The way that it is now, men are completely detached from their women and their children. Neither women nor children belong to men. And this is all that men care about. They only care about their own egos. This is something that I can say about narcissists, right? Narcissists do objectify their sources of narcissistic supply. So they do objectify their women and their children. They see them as possessions. So even though narcissists will abuse their wives and their children, they are very protective when it comes to other people doing it. In an ideal situation, submission should actually be power for women. When you submit, men who have honor will actually risk their lives to protect you because they are protecting what is theirs. Nowadays, most men don't have honor. So even if you submit, I'm not sure that men would risk their lives to protect you. Again, men see women and children as separate and distinct from themselves. So even if someone dishonors his wife, that has absolutely nothing to do with him. It didn't happen to him, so he doesn't give a fuck. That's not the way it used to be. Back then, everything was about duty and honor. Now, everything is transactional. Under common law, husbands had a legal and a moral duty to protect their wives and their children. Perhaps by eliminating the doctrine of legal coverture, the government has, in effect, taken away protection for women. Instead, the new coverture seems to be one in which the government assumes the role of the husband. This is just as oppressive as marital coverture. First of all, the government doesn't actually care about women. They have no vested interest in what happens to women or children. And the government is so powerful that no one can do anything to stop them. They can take away your children. They can take away your reproductive rights. The government promotes the dissolution of marriages by granting inequitable distributions of property. So while people can say that today's society is more egalitarian, the reality is that women don't want an egalitarian society. They don't want a society where no one is fighting or risking their lives to protect women. This is the problem with a one-size-fits-all solution. This is the problem with the government telling everyone how to live their lives rather than protecting individual rights. Under a system in which marriage was a private contract, the parties of said marriage could negotiate the terms as they saw fit. Now that the government has its foot on everyone's necks, the result is chaos. In addition to being against big government at the federal level, I am especially against big government at the state level. Big state governments are just as tyrannical as big federal governments. And the laboratories of democracy argument really doesn't pan out when they're all equally tyrannical. We need a return to republicanism based on natural law and limited government. Thanks for your support. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, don't forget to hit the notification bell so that you will know when I upload new content.